The life of a Jedi is a tough one. You're born with these incredible powers, but as a baby, you're ripped from your family and delivered to an ancient cult of warrior space wizards. Sure, you get given a flashy sword and have all sorts of cool powers, but the dark side is there to tempt you with such unreasonable vices like not repressing your emotions, and maybe using the Force and not sitting around in a chamber all day could be a nice idea. Okay, yes, it's a little bit more complex than that, but the fact remains the Jedi Order hasn't always helped itself when it's come to Jedi being tempted by the dark side. And while it may be no surprise that a few Jedi have fallen off the light side wagon from time to time, the reasons for a given Jedi Knight's fall from grace are varied. Some Jedi have terrible childhood trauma, others leave the Order for political reasons, and some Jedi are just flat out dicks. So, let's indulge our darker side, shall we? I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Star Wars, and here is every canon Jedi who turned to the dark side. Number 10. Anakin Skywalker. The circumstances of young Skywalker's birth are shrouded in mystery, but Anakin still ended up being one of the most powerful Force-sensitive beings in the entire galaxy. His childhood wasn't the best, he was a slave after all, but he did find an avenue to escape his life of servitude. Early in his youth, Anakin set off on a career that could have been the most fantastic adventure of his life. He was fated to become one of the greatest pod racers the galaxy had ever known, albeit with Watto as his manager, but still, that's a pretty cool profession. Anakin's budding career as a pod racer was cut short when two Jedi showed up on his planet and won young Anakin in a bet with his slave master. The two Jedi recognized Anakin as a powerful Force user, with Qui-Gon Jinn even deeming the boy to be the chosen one, ignoring his age and deciding to take him to the Jedi Temple despite him having formed a clear emotional attachment with his mum, who said Jedi didn't really make a proper effort of saving either. Somehow, this brilliant plan blew up in the whole Order's face. Anakin turned to the dark side and made it his life's work to hunt down and kill all Jedi, being by far the most infamous example of a knight succumbing to the ways of the Sith. Number 9. Count Dooku. Count Dooku was abandoned as a child by his family. He was scooped up by the Jedi and trained as a Padawan by Grand Master Yoda himself. Later in life, Dooku would become disillusioned with both the Jedi and the Galactic Republic, seeing both organizations as unresponsive to the needs of the people they each claimed to serve. One instance that highlights Dooku's disillusionment would be the Force vision of his close friend and fellow Jedi, Cypher Dyas. Yes, the very same Cypher Dyas who ordered the creation of a clone army. At some point, Cypher Dyas informed Dooku that he'd had a Force vision of a deadly solar storm that threatened a planet called Protobranch. Of course, Dooku and Cypher Dyas went to the Jedi Council to warn them of the oncoming disaster. The Council, led by Yoda, informed them that they would not be allowed to warn the leaders of Protobranch. The Council's reasoning for not warning the planet? They were like, sometimes visions are wrong. Which they totally are, don't get me wrong, but still, that's cold. Needless to say, Dooku did not accept this reasoning and warned the senator of Protobranch, a man named Tevetti. To Dooku's horror, Tevetti was more concerned about the potential property damage than human life loss. Ultimately, the predicted solar storm did occur, killing much of Protobranch's population. This was just one of many instances that made Dooku reconsider his devotion to the Jedi and to the Republic, and led him to reassuming his title as Count on Sereno, before being seduced by Palpatine after the disappearance of Maul. Number 8. Ben Solo. So, what happened to Ben? Well, at a young age, he started hearing a voice in his head. The voice comforted him, warned him of dangers, told him secrets, but it also fed on Ben's insecurities, like being named after the best Jedi to ever exist ever. The voice told Ben that he was weak and couldn't survive alone. Okay, the voice turned out to be a ghost Palpatine, but nobody would have guessed that. Ben later went to train with his uncle Luke at the New Jedi Temple. He was clearly the most talented and influential of Luke's students. At some point, an enigmatic Force user called Snoke befriended Ben. Snoke was a dark Force user possessed by Palpatine to take advantage of the powerful young student. He just grows them in tubes, doesn't he? You know the rest of the story. Ben witnessed his uncle, lightsaber drawn and ready to murder him in his sleep, and he thought, you know what, forget this. He collapsed a building on top of Luke and made a getaway, finding his way to the Knights of Ren and murdering their leader in the process. Number 7. Asajj Ventress. Asajj Ventress was a Dathomirian woman who did it all, and one of my favourite Star Wars characters ever. Asajj was born on Dathomir, a planet outside of the boundaries of the Galactic Republic. She was born to a clan of witches and Force users called the Night Sisters. As a child, Asajj was sold by her clan into slavery. Ventress was later discovered by the Jedi Knight Kai Narek, who she saved from a pirate attack using her untapped connection to the Force. Narek took on Asajj as his Padawan. She was trained for 10 years as they protected innocents from constant pirate attacks, but tragedy would strike again as Kai Narek was shot and killed by yet even more space pirates. Freaking pirates, every time, man. Consumed by grief at the loss of yet another parental figure, Asajj fully embraced the dark side. She took vengeance on her master's killers, murdering them in cold blood. Soon, her dark exploits would catch the attention of Count Dooku, who wished to use Ventress in a quest to overthrow his Dark Master Palpatine. Eventually, after Palpatine discovered Dooku's deception, Dooku tried to murder Asajj. Asajj then tried to kill Dooku, and finally, she decided to start freelancing as a bounty hunter. Until eventually, Dooku kind of killed her again. Ugh. Number 6. Barriss Offee. Much like Ahsoka Tano, Barriss Offee was a young Jedi Padawan who trained during the Clone Wars. In fact, the two Padawans were close friends, until they weren't. Eventually, Barriss would turn to the dark side and attempt to frame Ahsoka for murder. The nerve of it all. But let's back up a bit. At some point, Barriss became disillusioned with the Jedi Order. She believed that the Jedi had lost their way, abandoning their role as peacekeepers in the galaxy and fighting a war that served the dark side. And with hindsight being 2020, Barriss wasn't wrong. After all, the Clone Wars had been orchestrated by the two Sith Lords. One of those Sith Lords, Dooku, was even a former Jedi. Even the highest members of the Jedi Council, Yoda and Mace Windu, sensed that they had lost their way and something about the Clone Wars felt very, very wrong. The dark side of the Force was rising, but Yoda and Windu hid that information, choosing instead to protect the power and influence of the Jedi Order. Of course, Barriss didn't know that, but instinctively, she knew what the Jedi were doing was wrong. Unfortunately, her response to the growing darkness in the Council was to bomb the Jedi Temple. She then framed her friend, Ahsoka, for the crime. She did eventually confess to her framing, but only after Anakin Skywalker intervened. Number 5. Taron Malicos. Introduced in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Taron Malicos was a trusted Jedi general who fought during the Clone Wars. After the war, Malicos was able to escape Order 66 in his personal spacecraft. He later crashed on the planet Dathomir. If you don't remember Dathomir, it's the home world of Asajj Ventress, Maul, and his brother Savage Opress, and it's populated by a coven of Force witches known as the Night Sisters. But it was also home to a clan of warriors called the Night Brothers. Malicos eventually succumbed to the dark side on the planet and killed the leader of the Night Brothers, a man with the unfortunate name of Viscus. Malicos seized control of the Night Brothers and ruled them through fear. They, in turn, worshipped Malicos and revered his power in the Force. While living on Dathomir, Malicos encountered the Jedi Padawan Cal Kestis. Malicos tried and failed to turn the young Jedi to the dark side, and was eventually defeated by him and Night Sister Merrin, never to be seen again. Number 4. The Grand Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor was a mysterious powered male and a former Jedi Temple guard. During the Galactic Empire, the Grand Inquisitor was a Sith enforcer who hunted and killed Jedi throughout the galaxy. Inquisitors were a group of fallen Jedi who became Vader's lethal enforcers. After a failure in battle with Jedi Kanan Jarrus, the Grand Inquisitor allowed himself to die, knowing that death was preferable to the punishment that Darth Vader would have in store. Number 3. Quinlan Vos. Quinlan Vos was kind of a wild card within the Jedi Temple. He was a warrior who'd earned the reputation of being a talented Force user, but also a Jedi willing to bend the rules to get results. He was kind of the anti-Mace Windu. Vos's story is all over the place though. It's kind of a roller coaster. During the war, Vos was assigned by the Jedi Council the very un-Jedi-like mission to assassinate Count Dooku. Yoda suggested to Vos that he seek the aid of Dooku's former Darkside apprentice, Asajj Ventress. The Darkside user had cut ties with Dooku after he tried to murder her, and was now working as a bounty hunter instead. At first, Vos attempts to hide his identity from Ventress, but he eventually reveals himself as a Jedi and tells her of his mission to kill Dooku. Ventress had developed a respect for Vos, but told him they would not be able to kill Dooku unless he embraced the dark side of the Force. Voss agreed, and Ventress began training him to channel his negative emotions during combat, only for Voss to be captured and tortured by Count Dooku on the actual mission. It was there that Voss took on his new secret Sith persona, Admiral Enigma. He eventually returned to the light side of the Force and was one of the presumed survivors of Order 66, although after the war, he was never seen or heard from again. Number 2. Pong Krell. While most of the Jedi on this list have a tragic history that helps explain their fall to the dark side, Pong Krell is just kind of a dick. Krell was a basilisk male possessing 4 arms and some genuinely magnificent jowls. Krell's extra appendages allowed him to dual-wield double-bladed lightsabers, and it's a sight to behold. Krell was a Jedi Master and served as a highly successful general during the Clone Wars. His fighting prowess earned Krell respect in the Order, but Krell was less popular with clone troopers. During his time as a commander, Krell's clones sustained the highest casualties during battle. In the later years of the war, Krell began to have visions of the future calamity that would befall the Jedi and the Republic. These dark visions caused Krell to fall to the dark side, but he hid this from his fellow Jedi and remained in his position as a general. He even sabotaged Jedi operations in the hope of gaining Count Dooku's attention. Unfortunately for Krell, he was assassinated by his own clone troopers before his plan could come to fruition. Kind of like an Order 66 dry run, only, ethical. And number 1, Trilla Siduri. Trilla Siduri was a Force-sensitive with a brilliant intellect who trained under the Jedi Knight, Seer Junda, who was also introduced in Jedi Fallen Order. After the fall of the Republic, Seer and Trilla attempted to hide a group of younglings from Imperial forces. In the aftermath of Order 66, Seer and Trilla were discovered by an Imperial patrol. Seer decided the two should split up, and that she would attempt to lead the Imperials away from Trilla and the younglings. Trilla begged her master to stay with the group, but Seer refused. While Junda succeeded in distracting the Imperials, she failed in eluding them and was captured. Seer was then taken to the group of Jedi hunters known as the Inquisitors and was subjected to intense torture, and eventually betrayed the location of her Padawan, Trilla, to the Imperial forces. When the Empire captured Trilla, they subjected her to the same torture as her master, and eventually, Trilla gave in to the dark side of the Force and became an Inquisitor. Trilla would transform into a lethal Jedi hunter known as the Second Sister. In fact, when her former master, Seer, witnessed Trilla in an Imperial uniform, she totally lost it herself and killed everyone in the room but Trilla with the Force. Trilla was abandoned, betrayed, tortured, and witnessed her own master briefly turn to the dark side. You can't really blame her for turning herself. She never stood a chance. And that was our list on every canon Jedi who joined the dark side. Who do you think was the most interesting Dark Jedi? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, do not forget to show your support for the channel and like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to Welcome to Star Wars so you never miss another upload going forward. That's all for now though. I've been Ewan, take care, and may the Force be with you. Bye!